Hi, it's Janine from YouCanStressLess.com. Today's Beyond the Box, I have a very special guest, Kathy Lipinski. Kathy Lipinski is a very well-known Reiki practitioner and teacher. She's a hypnotist as well as a holistic nurse. Now, Kathy holds a very special place in my heart because she is my Reiki trainer. Lately, Kathy has been doing something that is really, really interesting. I like to call it the old but new. So let's go and check out what it is that Kathy Lipinski's up to. Thank you for joining me today, and today I have a wonderful guest, Kathy Lipinski. So Kathy, you know that Reiki has been a very big part of my life, and I know that Reiki has been a very big part of your life. So before we talk about what's absolutely amazing that you're doing now, let's go back a little bit. So how long has Reiki been a part of your life, and when did you start training people?
Okay, I came to Reiki, or as everybody says, Reiki found me in 1992. Being a holistic nurse, I had known about therapeutic touch and healing touch, and was actually at one of those workshops that people started talking about Reiki. So I said, okay, so what is this thing? They said, well, if you like this, you're going to love that. So I went and found a teacher, and she couldn't come for a few months. And then finally, when I took the class, it was just a really deep knowing that this is important. I had no idea what I was going to do with it. This was back in 1992, and I just knew it was important, and I just continued on. And she had said initially that you have to wait 6 months, so I said, get your date book out and let's continue. And then I continued and continued. And I became a Reiki master teacher 2 years later. So I had 2 years, 2 solid years of practice, and have been teaching since 1995.
Well, as I had said earlier, that you were my Reiki master and teacher, so this interview is absolutely important to me. I also know now you're doing something that's a little bit different, and that people are may not be familiar with the type of Reiki that you're training people with now. So what are you doing now, and tell us a little bit about it.
Okay. I am still teaching Western Reiki, but now what Janine is talking about, what you're talking about, is called Jikiden, Jikiden. And the word is a Japanese word, and it means authentic, or as taught by my teacher. So it's directly transmitted. So actually what it is the way it's Reiki as taught by Dr. Hayashi, who was trained by Mikao Usui back in the 1930s. So the word means authentic, and it's simple. The Japanese culture is very much a part of it, and the honor and respect
Is a big part of it.
is a big part of it.
So
No,
I've been kind of like nicknaming it the old but new,
right,
because it really is older than the teachings than
Right.
we're learning right now.
right.
So, what is the differences between the Usui Reiki that we kind of know now versus the Jikiden, which is a Usui,
Which is Usui Reiki,
Usui
yes.
Reiki. So, what are the kind of differences that you've noticed?
Okay, there are a few differences. One thing I just wanted to say is that what happened when Dr. Hayashi taught Mrs. Takada, who brought Reiki to the United States, because she knew the Japanese culture and she knew some of the practices don't exactly translate into the Western mindset, she changed it. And I honor her, very much for that, because it's such a different culture.
Yeah.
And she made it more friendly for the Western tradition. So that was one of the things. But Dr. Hayashi, since he was a medical doctor, what he did was he would focus on the Byosin. And Western practitioners know what Byosin is. It means line of sickness or illness. And it really is what we feel underneath our hands when we give somebody Reiki. So in Jikiden, a big focus of the practice is finding the Byosin, the areas of stress, the areas of toxins or congestion, finding that, giving it a number like a level, and then working with it. Whereas in Western Reiki, most people were taught the hand positions or the foundation treatment, which Mrs. Takada had,
Right.
which is great. And it's great for stress reduction. So Reiki is great for stress. And you would do 3 to 5 minutes at the different hand positions.
Right.
Well, in Jikiden, there's no hand positions. However, when you see the diagram of where the energy or the congestion or the stress collects,
Yeah.
that's where the hand positions are.
Now, we've talked about this before, about the fear that people have when we talk about feeling the energy.
Right.
And that some people feel that they don't feel the energy. And what do you say about that?
Okay, that's one of the biggest concerns, especially when somebody comes to Reiki 1, can I feel it?
Right.
And what I say to my students right away is that sometimes when you put your hands on someone, you may not feel anything because they're basically in balance.
Right.
So the more the person is out of balance, the more the person has toxins accumulated or stress accumulated, like even tight muscles or old injuries, the more trouble or problem there is, the more you'll feel. So the feeling, the sensations you get in your hands is not always about you. Even though Reiki practitioners, our hands do tend to get warm because they're like antennas and they pick up things. But in Jikiden, that warmth that we think in Western Reiki is so hot, that's normal.
Now, I'm so glad we brought that up, because I don't want people who hear this to think that, oh, I don't feel energy, so maybe this isn't for me. This is definitely for you. This is something that is so interesting, and you're definitely going to want to learn this from Kathy, because she is the best. So with this type of way of doing Reiki, what kind of like got your interest so much? What were you so interested in with it?
Ever since I took Reiki, some of the stories that we knew never made sense to me. Like one of the stories that after World War II, all the Reiki practitioners in Japan died. And I'm like, how do they know that? That doesn't make any sense too.
Right.
Well, in Jikiden, we learn actually a lot more of the actual history. What happened was after World War II, when the U.S. occupied Japan, anyone doing the natural healing arts had to go underground. So they couldn't practice in public. So they didn't die, but they went underground.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, Kathy, this is so interesting. I want people to know more. So, what else do you want people to know about Jikiden Reiki?
Yeah. The most important thing I would say, how simple it is, how Reiki really is simple. You put your hands on, it starts. You take your hands off, it stops. Nice and easy. The other thing that Jikiden really emphasizes is the Reiki precepts, or the Gokai, the 5 principles.
Right.
And we know them as do not, just for today. Do not anger, do not worry, and all that. And when Usui Sensei designed them, he designed them for psychological well-being. And he said that if you heal the mind, you heal the body. So the precepts are very important in Jikiden. And you learn how to say them in Japanese, because Usui, in the Japanese culture, words have power. I mean, you say them out loud, they come to life.
I love that.
So that's what it's called, the Kotodama, and that's what the Reiki precepts originally were. The other thing with Jikiden is that you receive Reiju, which is very similar to our Western attunements, and probably where they came from. And the idea was that you would learn something, then you would have Reiju. And then you would learn something else, then you would have Reiju. So you have 3 in level 1 or Shoden. And then the other difference in Jikiden is that in Western Reiki, you are attuned to the symbols.
Yes.
But in Jikiden Reiki, you learn that we receive the Reiju, we open to Reiki, and that enables us to work with the symbols.
Right, so it's not that we're attuned to the symbols, we're attuning ourselves and using the symbols.
Right.
Right.
And the other thing too is where I think the idea of secret, with the symbols and everything, where that came from in the Japanese culture, they put education as very, very highly, appreciated. And they felt that they didn't want anyone to see the symbols because they want you to have the whole teaching.
That makes sense.
So teaching is very important in how you learn, and the student's responsibility. So it would be that you wouldn't give somebody car keys and not give them lessons.
Right.
So that's why I think they didn't want the symbols out there, because they want you to have the whole teaching, what they're used for. And the other thing with the symbols is that Usui Sensei developed them from things in nature. So they represent something.
Oh.
Which is a little bit different.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So the way you use the symbols, the shirushi as we call them, are different in Jikiden. And the other thing I wanted to say too was that the training is different. So you would take Shoden level 1, which is 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
The next level is Okuden, and then you will learn distant healing, but a different way
Oh.
than what we know in Western, which is a very powerful way. And interestingly, they really didn't do too much distant healing back in the day because they were a small community.
Yeah.
But when the men would go off to war, the way they learned the distant healing there, if they felt, as they were sending, if they felt the Biosin, they knew their husbands were alive. But if they felt nothing, they knew they had passed. So the Biosin, what you feel into your hands, is a very big part of Jikiden.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about that is one of the differences is when you have an issue like someone has cancer. What you would do in Jikiden is that you would go to that area and you would track the Biosin. So you'd wait to see, because it cycles in 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
So you'd wait to see, okay, so how high is this level going to go? There's a shirushi that you work with it, and then you stay. So in Jikiden, you could stay in one place for an hour, just tracking the Biosin, because the idea is as the Biosin peaks, goes up and down, as you apply the shirushi, it will go down and then it keeps going down. So by staying in that one place.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, and that's why it's very good for people that are really sick.
Yeah.
Or even having surgery or any kind of injury. So you just stay and focus it. Whereas the foundation treatment, when Mrs. Takada designed that, she had you put in all the different major glands, which is almost like balancing the hormonal system.
Right.
And that does. It gives you the relaxation and all that too. And it's great. It's still good for that. But when you have, people that are really sick, you can use that. You stay.
It's like concentrating.
Concentration.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because part of the training was that if you eventually want to teach, you have to review the first level and the second level. You have to have 120 hours of practice. So, when you have to do the 120 hours, you find that when you're staying, sometimes it feels like your hands become part of them. And some of my clients would say that to me. I feel like your hands just melted into me, or you found the sweet spot.
I love it. I love it. Now that we all want to take this, how are people going to either get a session with you, learn more about it, or get a training from you? How can they find out more from you?
My website is Reiki Hypnosis, ReikiHypnosis.com. My email is Kathy Karuna, KathieKaruna, 95 phone number?
Sure.
631-360-6722.
Yeah.
Go to my website.
Give her a call. This is great, great stuff. Thank you so much, Kathy, for telling everybody about Jikiden. And really give her a call or look on her website and find out more, because this really is very, very interesting. Till then, I want you to think, live, and grow beyond the box.